10 harsh high school lessons all teens need to learn. Most parents want to protect their teens from harsh lessons, and I understand that. Of course we do. We don't want them to feel embarrassed. We don't want them to fail. We don't want them to be left out, fall behind, or learn things the painful way. But after working with high school students for more than 25 years, I can tell you this. Some lessons are actually kinder to learn in high school than to learn for the first time in college, at work, or in adulthood, because high school is a safe place where teens have support. They have parents, they have teachers, they have counselors. They have people who can help them recover, reflect, and try again. So today, I want to talk about 10 harsh high school lessons all teens need to learn. And one of them might sound a little blunt, but honestly, it's one of the most freeing things a teenager can learn. Now, before you panic, I don't mean that nobody cares about your teen. I mean that most people are not thinking about them nearly as much as they think they are. And when teens finally understand that, it can be incredibly freeing. I'll come back to that one a little later in the video. But first, let's start with a lesson that every teen needs to learn if they want to become more independent, more capable, and more ready for what comes next. Lesson 1, nobody can want your success more than you do. This is a hard one. Parents can care deeply. Teachers can remind. Counselors can encourage. Tutors can explain. Coaches can push. But at some point, the teen needs to care enough to participate in their own life. They have to open the assignment. They have to study for the test. They have to send the email. They have to show up to practice. They have to decide that their future is worth the effort today. I know that sounds obvious, but I have seen so many parents working harder for a teen's success than the teen is working for themselves. Checking every grade, tracking every missing assignment, reminding them 5 times, emailing teachers, trying to create urgency that the teen does not yet feel. And while that may help in the short term, it doesn't create ownership. The harsh truth is support can help a teen succeed, but support cannot replace their own effort. At some point, they have to begin carrying some of the weight. And as parents, our job is not to stop caring. It's to slowly shift from "I will manage this for you" to "I believe that you're capable of managing more of this yourself." Lesson 2 is being smart is not the same as being prepared. This lesson hits a lot of high-achieving teens especially hard. Some kids get through elementary school, even middle school, without having to study very much. They're quick, they understand things easily, and they could pull things together at the last minute and still do fine. But high school has a way of exposing the difference between intelligence and habits. Eventually, the classes get harder, the reading gets heavier, and the tests require more than just paying attention in class. The projects require planning, the deadlines stack up, and suddenly the teen who has always been called smart starts struggling. Not because they become less capable, but because natural ability can only carry you so far without organization, preparation, and follow-through. This can be a painful lesson because teens sometimes interpret this as, maybe I'm not smart after all. But that is the wrong conclusion. The better conclusion is, this is the moment that I need to build better systems. Use a planner, break down the project, study before the night before. Go back over what you'd missed. Ask questions before confusion turns into panic. Parents can help a lot here by praising the habits, not just the outcome. Not, "You're so smart," but "I noticed that you started early. I noticed that you went back and fixed what you missed. I noticed that you made a plan instead of hoping it would all work out." Because in high school, and definitely beyond high school, prepared usually beats gifted but inconsistent. Lesson 3, procrastination is not avoiding stress. It's scheduling more stress for later. Teenagers often act like procrastination is a form of relief. "I don't want to deal with that right now. I'll do it later. I work better under pressure." Maybe sometimes they can get away with that, but most of the time, putting things off doesn't make it disappear. It just moves the stress to a worse time. Now the essay's due tomorrow. Now the test is in the morning. Now the application closes at midnight. Now they're tired, rushed, overwhelmed, and frustrated that everyone is nagging them. The harsh lesson is avoiding a task now often creates a bigger emotional burden later. And I do think that teens need compassion here. Procrastination is not always laziness. Sometimes it's overwhelm. Sometimes it's perfectionism. Sometimes the task feels too big, too boring, or too unclear. But regardless of the reason, the answer is usually not, I'll wait until I feel like it. The answer is make the first step smaller. Open the document, find the instructions, do the first math problem, read one page, write the ugly first sentence. Motivation often comes after movement, not before it. This is a lesson that can change a teen's entire school experience. Lesson 4, if you hide the problem, people may assume that you don't need help. This is a huge one. A lot of teens struggle silently. They don't understand the math, but they nod like they do. They miss 3 assignments, but tell their parents everything's fine. They're overwhelmed by a group project, but they don't email the teacher. They're anxious about a class, but they keep saying, I've got this. And sometimes adults don't realize how much trouble they're in until the grade is dropped, the deadline's passed, or the teen is completely shut down. The harsh truth is, people cannot help with a problem that they don't know exists. Learning to speak up is not optional. It's a life skill. I'm confused about what you're asking for. I studied, but I clearly did not study the right way. I'm behind and I need help making a plan. I'm not sure how to start. I thought I understood, but I don't. These are not weak statements. These are responsible statements. And parents can help teens practice this without doing it for them. Instead of immediately emailing the teacher, you might say, let's draft what you could say. I'll sit beside you while you send it. Tell me what part feels awkward. Because the goal is not just getting through this one class. The goal is raising a young person who knows how to advocate for themselves when life gets hard. Lesson 5, your parents can't rescue you from every consequence. This is a tough one for teens. And honestly, this is a tough one for parents too. Because our kids forget things, miss something, or mess something up. Our instinct is often to fix it. Bring the forgotten homework to school, email the coach, call the teacher, make the excuse, smooth over the problem, and sometimes, of course, parents should step in. But if we step in every time, teens can start to believe that consequences are optional as long as somebody loves them enough, and that does not serve them well. The harsh lesson is choices have consequences, even if you're a good person and even if you did not mean for things to go badly. If you don't prepare, you may not perform well. You may miss a deadline. You may lose the opportunity. If you fail to communicate, people may stop trusting that you'll follow through. That doesn't mean one mistake defines a teen. Absolutely not. But it does mean they need room to feel the natural weight of some decisions while the stakes are still relatively manageable. A forgotten assignment in high school is painful, but it is a much gentler teacher than a missed college deadline, a missed job opportunity, or a damaged professional reputation later. Lesson 6, your phone will take as much of your life as you let it. I know, this one may make some teens roll their eyes, but it belongs on the list because phones are not just a minor distraction anymore. They are with teens when they wake up, when they study, when they're bored, when they're lonely, when they're supposed to sleep, and sometimes when they're trying to have a real conversation. And the harsh truth is, if you don't learn to manage your attention, someone else will manage it for you. Every notification, every scroll, every quick check pulls attention away from something else. Homework takes longer, sleep gets shorter, stress gets higher, and teens start to feel like they never had time. And in reality, their time is being chipped away in tiny, invisible pieces. It's not about pretending the phone is evil. They're not. They're useful. They're social, and they're a part of teen life. But teens need to learn that access doesn't mean constant availability. Put it across the room while studying. Turn off some notifications. Stop bringing it into every homework moment. Create some kind of line between being connected and being consumed. Because the ability to focus is becoming a competitive advantage, and teens who learn that early will have an easier time in school, in college, and in life. Lesson 7, nobody is thinking about you as much as you think they are. I know that sounds harsh, but for a lot of teenagers, it's actually incredibly freeing. So many teens walk into high school feeling like they are under the spotlight. They worry about how they're walking into class, whether their answer sounded stupid, whether people noticed that they sat alone for a minute, whether their outfit was wrong, whether their post got enough likes, whether everyone is secretly judging them. And yes, teenagers can absolutely be judgmental. I'm not going to pretend that nobody ever notices anything, but here's the bigger truth. Most teens are so busy worrying about how they're being perceived that they're not spending nearly as much time analyzing you as you imagine they are. They're thinking about their own hair, their own grade, their own awkward comments, their own lunch table, their own crush, their own insecurity, and that means that you can relax a little bit. You don't need to spend every school day performing for an imaginary audience. You can raise your hand even if your voice shakes. You can wear the thing that you like. You can try out for the club. You can sit with someone new. You can ask the question. You can walk into a room without assuming everyone is evaluating you, because most of the time, they're thinking about themselves. And I don't mean that in a cold or cynical way. I mean it in a deeply liberating way. You're allowed to be a work in progress in public. You're allowed to be a little awkward. You're allowed to try something before you're polished at it. You're allowed to stop letting the fear of what people might think decide what you do. The harsh lesson is, if you spend high school trying not to be judged, you may also spend it not fully being yourself. And that's too high of a price to pay. Lesson 8, your reputation is being built in small moments. Teens sometimes think reputation is about popularity. It's not. Reputation is about what people learn to expect from you. Do you show up? Do you follow through? Do you tell the truth? Do you contribute? Or do you wait for others to carry the weight? Do you handle disappointment with some maturity, or do you blame everyone else? And here's the part that teens don't always realize. Teachers notice, coaches notice, employers notice, friends notice. Not because they're waiting for teens to fail, but because reliability matters. A teen who's kind, responsible, and consistent builds trust over time. And a teen who repeatedly says, I forgot, I didn't know, I was going to, it's not my fault, also builds a reputation. Maybe not from one bad day. Everybody has a bad day. But patterns speak. The harsh lesson is, people may forgive mistakes, but they still learn from repeated behavior. This is especially important for teens who are starting to think about recommendation letters, jobs, leadership roles, and college opportunities. Because long before somebody writes about their character, they've been watching it. Lesson 9, a setback is not a verdict, but it is information. A bad test grade, a disappointing season, a rejection, a friendship problem, college decision that doesn't go the way that you hoped. Teens can be very quick to turn a setback into an identity. I'm terrible at this. I'll never get it. I'm not good enough. Why even try? And I understand that reaction, but the harsh lesson is, feeling defeated doesn't mean that you have been defeated. A setback is not automatically proof that you can't succeed, but it is feedback. Maybe the study method didn't work. Maybe the time investment was too small. Maybe the class requires more support. Maybe the goal needs a better plan. Maybe the friendship is showing you something you didn't want to admit. The question is not just, did this go well? The question is, what is this teaching me about what I should do next? This is where resilience actually comes from. Not from pretending that failure doesn't hurt, but from refusing to let one painful outcome become the whole story. Teens build confidence when they learn that I can be disappointed and still respond. I can mess up and still repair. I can struggle and still take the next step. This is a far more useful form of confidence than needing everything to go smoothly all the time. Lesson 10, high school does not define your entire life, but your choices in high school do shape your options. I think teens need both halves of this truth, because no, high school is not everything. One bad grade doesn't ruin your future. One awkward year doesn't define your identity. One rejection doesn't mean life is over. There are many paths to a meaningful, successful life. But that doesn't mean that high school doesn't matter. It matters. The habits matter. The course choices matter. The relationships matter. The opportunities that you take or ignore matter. The harsh lesson is, you don't need to be perfect in high school, but you should not treat these years like they're meaningless either. These years are practice for managing freedom, making decisions, building discipline, recovering from disappointment, and learning who you are becoming. Parents don't need to scare teens into believing that every choice is permanent. That creates anxiety. But we also shouldn't soften things so much that teens believe that nothing really counts. A healthier message is, your future is not fragile, but it is shaped by what you practice repeatedly. And that's good news, because teens don't need to transform overnight. They can begin with one better habit, one honest conversation, one moment of ownership, one choice to start instead of avoid. This is how maturity is built. So, those are the 10 harsh high school lessons that all teens need to learn. And again, I don't believe that teens need constant criticism, pressure, or fear-based parenting. They need support. They need connection. They need adults who believe in them. And they also need the truth like nobody can want your success more than you do. Being smart does not replace preparation. Avoiding things usually makes them harder. And yes, most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. And that is actually good news because it means that you're freer than you think to become who you really are. The goal is not to make high school painless. The goal is to help teens become capable enough to handle life when it's not painless. And in many ways, that's one of the most loving things that you can do as parents. If you found this helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe because I make videos to help parents of high school students support their teens with more confidence, more clarity, and less overwhelm. If you want more guidance, I have a free resource called the High School Roadmap Every Parent Needs to Succeed. It walks you through the biggest areas parents should be paying attention to during the high school years. I'll put a link in the description below. So thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.